Hi, I'm Emily Eddington, and I'm joined today by Linda and Charlie Hogg. Thanks for joining us. And we're looking back on storm stories from May 8th. So could you just kind of tell me what your experience was on that day, Charlie?
Well, that day I was going to try to take a day off and go fishing, and I thought conditions were right because it was right before a storm, which is usually right before a front. I like to go out and spend the day on the lake, and so that morning I wasn't going to let anything stop me, even though the weather didn't look that favorable. I got out on the water, and conditions started getting really black and a little bit scary. And usually storms don't scare me, but this was a little bit unusual. So I decided to wait it out and stay on the water and go tie myself up to a tree. So with that said, things started getting worse and worse. The boat started getting, I was in my boat, and things started kind of going north on me a little bit as far as the boat getting wrapped up, and the rope was wrapped up in the tree, and I tried to get a pair of pliers and undo the rope out of the tree, and it was so tight the wind was blowing in multiple directions, which was very unusual. That's what kind of alarmed me a little bit. Usually wind comes in one direction, and that particular day it was blowing in multiple directions, which was spinning me around and around with the tree. It was a little ways to the bank where I was at, and I decided that I better get myself to the bank, because I looked up on the land and trees were coming down, and things started getting pretty rough. So I thought, well, it's not going to be good if this tree that I'm tied to is going to fall over at the same time on top of me in the boat. So I took a knife out. I took my pocket knife out, and I tied my rope up that was tied to the front of the boat. I took my pocket knife out and I cut the rope off of the tree. I jammed the motor in gear and jammed myself up to the bank and jumped up onto the bank. And at that point I just hurled down and pulled my boat up and wrapped it around a fallen tree, I knew that I was safe there because the tree had already fell between me and the bank, and I was going to get under it because there was no other big trees. And so I dove up on the bank and huddled down, and of course my phone was going off. My wife was a little upset with me for staying out on the water, but that's not unusual. I'm very known to stay out on the water in storms. Usually a storm doesn't scare me, but this one, when I got up and I huddled down, what was very eerie was that for some reason there was a very loud noise up in the sky, and it kind of alarmed me a little bit. I didn't know whether, I kind of thought the world was coming to an end. It was very, very odd. I'd never heard that sound before, which is frightening, when you hear something that doesn't sound right. Linda was texting me, trying to get me to, are you okay, are you okay? And I couldn't get my text to go out, and excuse me, I had a umbrella over my head, trying to hold it down because it was turning inside out on me, and I was trying to hold it down around me while I was trying to text her, and of course my kids were trying to text me, my wife was trying to text me, and I knew that I was in trouble. So I finally got my text to go out that said I'm okay. Sat there and waited it all out. The lake actually looked like the Big Muddy River. I was on Cedar Lake, and it looked like the Big Muddy River when the storm was over. It was unbelievable. All the things that were floating in the water, very, very bad. So at that point, I got myself out away to where I could get cell service, and I talked to Linda, and I said, okay, I've made it through this one. I'm going to fish the rest of the day. And at that point, she told me I better get myself back home. Things
now.
are, now.
Now.
Things are worse than what you think they are.
Gosh.
I just thought it just hit right where I was at. I didn't realize it hit as bad as it did. So I was on my way to a 3-hour journey to get back home, cutting trees and helping people to get the roads clear.
Cedar Lake is located where?
It's down south of Carbondale.
South of Carbondale.
Yep. It took me 3 hours to get back home.
Oh, wow. So, Linda, when you noticed, this storm is upon us, and you knew he was out on the water, what were you thinking?
I was here. It was dinner time. There was only one other person here in the whole building besides myself, and I didn't know where the safest place was going, and all the while, the whole time, all I could say was, oh no, Charlie's in it, Charlie's in it. And I knew that being up here around this glass was going to be the worst thing, so I go to the back. The power was off, and the back door was completely open. It's a big garage door, tall, like 14 foot or whatever. Garage door's open, and I'm seeing the world blow by. And that wind and rain was sideways, and it was the most violent thing I'd ever heard. And I'm hearing trees crack, because I figured this was the safest place back there. And I'm hearing the cracking noise and stuff, and thinking, my husband's out there in this. There's no way he'll survive it.
And she knows me. I don't come off of the water when it's storming. I
There's
usually
no
tie
way.
up to the bank and wait on it to blow over. Because usually fishing's good right before a storm, and I was looking very much forward to spending the day on the water, because that particular day I was going to start at daylight and get off at dark, and so that definitely interrupted my day.
Wow. So when you did hear back from him and you found out he was okay, what was your reaction?
Get home now. Get home now. And I was so thankful that he was okay. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe he survived it. I really couldn't. I just knew I was a widow. I honestly did. I just knew that was it. It was done. And I just paced this place just praying for his safety. It was awful. It was awful. I can't believe that he made it.
Does this change things for you guys, where I guess fishing is concerned, and the way you sort of will handle these situations in the future, if there's an option?
It's definitely scarred my life as far as fishing in the storms, and seeing the black clouds come. But for some reason, unfortunately, I'm not afraid of storms. I play the odds on everything, and I'm just not that much afraid of storms. But right in the middle of this one, I thought this was the big one. This is going to get me right here.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.